Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sharia Way Read Aloud for chapters 17, 18, and 19 of Angels Unveiled by Hisham Kabani. Chapter 17, Angels Who Chant in Heaven. A friend of mine who has spent some time working in a city far from his wife and daughter suddenly feels a need to leave everything and visit them. He goes to his room, sits down, and begins writing a letter to his employer to ask permission to absent himself from work. He then submits the letter to the secretary and expects to receive permission after 2 or 3 days have passed, as was usual in such cases. He waits impatiently, but when the letter comes back, it says that he cannot take holidays at that time. He thinks to himself, as for such wrongdoers, their guerdon is that on them rests the curse of God and of angels and of men combined. Quran 3:87. He cannot call his wife as there are no telephones available in the area where they live. He comes back to his house, takes a shower, and puts a log in the fireplace. It is a snowy day. He sits and begins to meditate, looking at the fire flickering from time to time. After a while, he begins to see the images of the members of his family moving with the movement of the flames. In spirit, he begins to visit them. He sees himself greeting them one by one. His vision is rudely interrupted by heavy knocks at the door. At first, he pays no attention to them and tries to concentrate on the dancing flames. The knocks continue. He regretfully leaves his pleasant reverie of his wife and daughter. Slowly getting up, he goes to the door and opens it. No one is there. He looks around, nothing but snow covering everything and continuing to fall. He closes the door, but as he is making his way back to the couch, he hears another knock at the door. He goes back and opens it, but again, there is no one there. He wonders what is happening and who it could be that is knocking on the door. Is someone playing with me? He thinks. Or am I imagining things? Can this be related to the angel I read about yesterday? The third time, he hears harder knocks, and this time he jumps up and runs to the door. He opens it in the hope of catching whatever he would see behind the door, as he has begun to suspect the presence of a special power. When he sees what is there, he experiences a great shock. A cloud of light is hovering 3 feet in front of him, covering everything within sight. Inside it, a face of inexpressible beauty is staring at him. It is the face of a woman, a man, a child, or even a human being. Is it the face of a woman, a man, a child, or even a human being? All he can think at that time is that this is certainly an angel. He hears a voice that shakes his heart to the core with emotion and love. The voice says, God is most generous. He calls to us his presence and gives us courage. He returns goodness for our indifference. He covers our faults with forgiveness and changes the sadness in our hearts to light. We have become used to his benevolence, which never leaves us. Then the face looks at him with an expression of indescribable compassion and says, quote, I will be the messenger of your heart to your family. I shall inform them of your yearning for them. Tomorrow they will be on their way to you. He is elated and begins to recall the lessons he learned as a child. God bears witness before himself to his own oneness. There is no God but he. That is the witness of God, his angels, and those endowed with knowledge, standing firm in justice. There is no God but he, the exalted in power, the wise. Quran 3:18. God bears witness that as he himself, the exalted and the wise, stands firm on justice, so do these angels and knowers. These angels are created from the oceans of justice, from the light of the divine attribute, al-adil, the just. Their number is twice that of human beings, since God created two of them as guardian angels for every single man or woman. Their food and drink, their rest, their sleep is to praise God in the same language as the person over whom they watch. Their duty is to direct us always towards what is of benefit to us, to bring satisfaction and happiness to our hearts, and thus implement the justice for which they stand. They appear to those who truly know of God as purple color, and to children as green. On their heads they wear crowns decorated with unimaginable precious stones from paradise. These identify them as angels of justice and make them distinct from other angels. After speaking to him, the light seems to increase a little bit, but then everything disappears and nothing remains except snow falling softly on the ground. No footsteps. It is night. The man looks up and down, right and left, but he can see nothing anymore. He wears nothing on top of his flannel shirt, but is insensitive to the cold. Every hair on his body is standing on end. His heart is beating faster than it ever has beat before. He is in a state of excitement and pleasure he has never felt in his life. What is happening to him? The room has disappeared. The fire has disappeared. The couch, the tables, the grandfather clock, the mirror, everything has disappeared. Nothing is there except the memory of that angel engraved within the pupils of his eyes and on his heart. This state of ecstasy remains with him the whole night. When morning comes and the darkness disappears, his state abates little by little. When the sun has completely risen, it has left him completely. He asks himself, what was that a dream? Did I hallucinate? Or is this the angelic visitation that they are talking so much about? He mentally reviews the stories of angels he heard about or read, but in none of these stories can he recall anything even remotely resembling what he has experienced. He struggles with himself between the states of belief and disbelief, unable to admit without reservation the truth of what he has seen. Finally, he says to himself, quote, "If that was an angel, then my wife and children are coming today." That day he goes to work and everything seems to go on as usual. He is excited and feels that the day is lasting forever. He wants the day to finish, to go home and check to see if what happened is real or not. When 5 o'clock comes, he is the first to pack his things and leave. As he reaches home, to his amazement, he sees his wife and child in the distance, standing at the doorstep. He runs to them in a daze, asking himself 1,000 questions at the same time. They greet him happily and hug him. He is dumbfounded. Can this be possible? Are they real, or am I hallucinating? He hears the voice of his little girl saying to him, "Daddy, it's us. The angel bought us, me and Mom." He takes her in his arms, turns to his wife. He realizes that he was indeed visited by an angel. In his heart, everything that he knew before has crumbled and been replaced with a new understanding about the reality of this world. Angels are present among human beings and exert their power over worldly events to help them. He takes his wife into his arms and tries to open the door, but his hand is shaking. His wife says, "Dear, what is troubling you? Why are you shaking so much?" He says, later, I'll tell you about it." She takes the keys from his hands and opens the door. "What inspired you to come at this time?" he asks. She answers, "I was reading a story to our daughter yesterday and telling her about the angels who chanted in heaven. She asked me what these were, and I was trying to explain the chanting of the angels. Suddenly, we began to hear a wonderful melody filling the room. We saw a light, and inside it, a little girl just like ours who said, 'I am the chanting angel.' Our daughter asked me if I could see what she was seeing, and I reassured her that I could. She asked the angel, 'Angel, where is my dad?' The angel said, 'He is waiting for you, and he's sending his love.' I could not believe this was happening, but here was our little child telling me that it is all true. So we decided to come, and here we are." Chapter 18, Angel's Guide to Safety. The year is 1980. I have just come back from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. It is Saturday, July 7th. When the plane lands in Beirut airport, it makes an emergency landing because of the war going on at that time. I tried to contact my brother to tell him to pick me up. It is impossible because all telephone lines have been put out of commission. People are rushing through the customs and immigration controls. It is difficult to find an officer available to search you and stamp your passport. Everyone is running for his or her own dear life. You feel that they might die at any moment, that you might die at any moment. I look around for a taxi, but find no one willing to go up north where I live. Beirut was divided into two sides, and you could not go up north except by crossing from one side to the other, which no one felt bold enough to do on that particular day. A few hours pass. The airport and the streets around it are deserted except for one couple and their small child who traveled on the same plane as I. They are sitting in the cafeteria where they cannot even find a cup of water for their baby. They run into the same problem. No one has been found to take them to Tripoli, about 2 hours from the airport by car. I sit not far from the stranded family. We can hear the huge sound of crashing shells less than a mile away on the coastline. All of us are wondering how to reach home that day. I go into a state of prayer and meditation. I remember my master, and I ask for help from God through the intercession of my master. Another hour goes by. Night is falling. We can see the red sun about to disappear below the horizon. Suddenly, I see a car speeding towards the airport and approaching the parking lot outside the cafeteria window. It seems to be racing as if trying to escape some terrible pursuers. It screeches to a halt outside the main door, and a high-ranking officer of the Lebanese army dashes out. He is the officer responsible for the airport. From a distance, I wonder whether I know that person, as he seems familiar to me. As he approaches, I realize this is one of the followers of my master, who therefore belongs to the same group as I. When the officer sees me, he expresses less surprise than I do. I sense he is hiding something in his heart. We hug each other. He asks, "What are you doing here?" "I arrived today. I'm waiting for a car to take me home." "What about you? What are you doing here?" "We don't have time to talk now. Get your luggage and put it in the car." I bring my luggage as he has instructed. We get into the car. He starts the car again and puts it in reverse. I look at the stranded couple and their little child. When they see us leaving, they seem to lose hope, as if resigned for an impending disaster. This terrifies me. My friend is also afraid of the idea of being stranded in that forlorn place. Sitting in the car, I feel as if the child is sending us a message. All of us are innocent people. God created us to live in peace and happiness in this lovely world, extending our hands to each other as human beings. I want to enjoy this life as much as you. Play under the trees that rise up towards heaven, hear the birds and watch the waves breaking on the seashore. I don't want to die. When I seem to hear the child's appeal in my heart, tears come to my eyes. I think, am I leaving behind this family at night with no one taking care of them? The car begins to back up, but something is holding both of us. I say, I cannot go without them. Let us save our souls. Everyone is finding death on his way nowadays. They are shelling each other like mad. I cannot go without them. We have to take them with us. All right, let us get them. I wave with my hand for them to come. They think I am giving them a farewell gesture. In their depressed state, they cannot even imagine that I am inviting them to come away with us. The child begins to cry. All the while, we hear the sound of the shelling approaching our area. I go down from the car with my friend. We run to them and scream, "Come on!" They get on their feet, electrified by the sudden hope for salvation. They are practically dancing with joy as we help them carry their luggage into the car. We scramble into the car again and screech away, heading for the north. I ask my friend a second time how he knew that I was at the airport. Again, he says later. We have to decide which way to take right now. Shall we take the 2-hour trip by seashore or go the other way around, through the mountains, over 9,000 feet above sea level, through the cedars, and then down to Tripoli? It will take us 12 hours. There is no shelling on that road, but at this hour, any armed group might rob us, kill us, take the car, and go. We are in the middle of the dilemma when the little girl says out of nowhere, "I want to see the seashore. I don't want to go through the mountains. Please, uncle, take us to the seashore." Her father asks, "And why do you want to go to the seashore?" The child answers, "Because the angel told me so." Her father is in no mood to hear about angels. However, the child's words ring like thunder in my ears. It is as if the angel has spoken to the child in order to direct the mature ones. I say to my friend on the spot, "Let us go by way of the seashore." "How did you reach such a quick decision?" "Because I have experience with the angels. The lives of my master, of all our masters, of the prophet, and all the prophets are full of illustrations of this." These words are like the key that opens my friend's heart and his lips. He says, "I was afraid you would think I'm crazy when you were asking me what brought me to the airport. Do you know what brought me to the airport?" "I don't know, but I can guess that something has led you here despite your will and against your intentions. It could have been me because couldn't have been me because I didn't call you. The phones are out. I didn't write you either. There is no post. However, you are here." I was busy in my office with paperwork related to airport security. I was writing work schedules for the officers in downtown Beirut. I was sitting alone. I heard a voice out of the blue. It seemed to come from every corner of the room, but it was garbled. I looked around me. There was no one. I opened the door. No one was in the hallway either. I closed the door and went back in. Imagine me, a general in the army, trained for warfare, prepared for death at the hands of a terrorist attack. And I was now wondering about voices. As I sat, I heard the voice again. Again, I got up and looked everywhere, even out in the street, but it was deserted. I left the paperwork and listened. I tried to muster all my attention and place it in my ears to check if I was really hearing something and from where it came. This time, instead of hearing something, I saw the walls of the room recede until they seemed to disappear. I rubbed my eyes. Am I hallucinating now? I reached for the pot of coffee behind the desk and poured myself 2 cups. But even after I had drunk the coffee, the vision was still there. I took a bottle of water next to the coffee pot and I poured it on top of my head. It did not change a thing. I felt an intense heat. I realized that something extraordinary was happening to me. The moment that this thought of acceptance dawned upon me in my heart, it was as if I had used the secret code permitting me to enter a further state of understanding or vision. I began to understand that what I was experiencing was real and not an imagined occurrence or a hallucination. The feeling inside the car has changed from that of a dangerous trip to that of a mysterious story. Shells are falling all around us, in front of our cars, in front of us. Cars are stopping, and people are looking for shelter. Buildings are on fire. From the other end of the street, another car is rushing towards us. When they reach our level, they shout, "Move quickly! This is a war zone!" Great is our surprise to see that the driver of that car is smiling, although he has been warning us about great impending danger. We wonder why he seems so happy. Even more strangely, his face shines brightly and seems to light everything around us. My friend dispels our wonder and exclaims, "This is the same light and the same face I saw in my office. He is the one who visited me." This gives my friend the much needed sign that he is right on track. He continues on his way throughout the coastal highway towards the green line that cuts the center of the city. He continues his story. When I realized that I was not imagining things, I began to see a light that was taking over the whole room and replacing everything in it with a great white cloud. In the middle of this cloud, I saw an angel that resembled that shining man who smiled in the car that just passed us, but the angel was standing. In his hand, he was carrying a white bird. He addressed me in those words, "You have to go to the airport." I was unable to answer him because I was too overwhelmed to speak. I was unable to ask for further confirmation that this was a message for me. It was clear enough. Something had come to me and instructed me to go to the airport. At the same time, it was impossible for me to say, "I cannot go because there is too much shelling." As I repeated these objections to myself, the vision would repeat, "Go to the airport." It repeated this order 3 times. Finally, I gave in and decided to go. I left everything and here I am. Everybody in the car is happy after hearing this story, and yet we are afraid of what lies ahead. We are happy to know that an angel has reunited us, and yet we are afraid at the prospect of crossing the war zone. Our faith is high, nevertheless, because we have seen 3 signs. First, my friend has come on orders from an angel. Second, the child mentioned the message of an angel. And third, the same angel who spoke to my friend has come by us in a car and told us to move quickly. We are about to reach the green line where the shelling and shooting is the most intense. Warriors from every side are scrambling everywhere. These are unprincipled people who kill without the slightest provocation. They delight even in shooting at a bird if they can only sight one. My friend steps on the gas pedal. The married couple shout, "Please, they are looking at us, they are going to kill us." But the little girl exclaims, "No, no, Mom, Dad, don't you see the angels are protecting us? They are everywhere, chaining all the armed people. The warriors cannot move. They are like mummies wrapped in their chains without movement." My friend and I feel a renewed burst of confidence when we hear the little girl's words. It is as if we're inside a plane flying between the clouds. No one can see the plane except with a radar detector. The car is moving, crossing the streets as if veiled from everyone's eyes. We are hearing and seeing both sides fighting with each other, but no one cares about us, nor even notices our presence. Only the angels see us and guide us, as the radar guides the airplane flying blindly in the middle of a storm. We soon find ourselves on the other side. We cross safely, and nothing happens to us. We find ourselves in a state of happiness and relief that makes the hair on our bodies stand on end. Have we really made it safely through? The only car to pass the green line at that time? The child keeps repeating, "The angels have saved us. The angels have saved us." We continue on our way, headed for Tripoli. It is not over yet. The way is full of other dangers. The militias and the different parties have their soldiers posted all along the road, and we have to face them also, as we have faced the snipers and the shells. But the confidence the angels have placed in our hearts has grown to the extent that we feel sure of ourselves. We draw comfort from the sweet voice of our youngest passenger, who never stops saying that the angels are with us. After half an hour of driving safely in the dead of night, we see a checkpoint 1 mile ahead of us. Many cars have been stopped and pulled to the side. People are being taken away. My friend slows down. He begins to feel afraid, even though he is an army general. It is impossible to change our way and go back, as this is the only way available to us. We have no alternatives but to continue. As we approach, we can see the soldiers put handcuffs on people, not differentiating between men and women, and even slapping them on their faces and pushing them. Even children are not safe from their violence. We can hear many children screaming for their parents. Without fear of reprisal and without shame, the soldiers are kicking them and shoving them with their boots, showing no pity. The parents of the little girl try to hide their child under the seat, ordering her to huddle between their legs, but the little girl says, "Why are you afraid? Don't you see that the angels are coming with us? Look at all of them, some of them by the windshield, some holding the handle of the car doors, and others sitting at the back on top of the trunk." We all feel an immense relief. There is hope yet that we will pass the checkpoint unharmed. When we arrive, my friend slows down and prepares to stop. No one is paying attention to us. It is as if we do not exist on this earth. My friend waits a few moments, lest they should shoot at us if we moved. No one is paying attention. The little girl jumps out of the back seat and speaks to the driver, saying, "Uncle, move, don't wait. They will never see us because the angels are covering us." My friend feels encouraged to move. He steps on the gas pedal. He crosses the checkpoint, and soon it is a distant blur behind us. It's people continuing to stop the cars that come from behind. We have apparently changed into ghosts. An hour later, we reach Tripoli, safe and sound. It is just after midnight, and that is how we were saved from fear and destruction, as Jonah was brought out safe and sound from the belly of the whale. Chapter 19, Zahra and the Angels of Magic. The ways to God are infinite, their number corresponding to the breaths of created beings. God has allowed even children and the illiterate to have knowledge of Him. He brings out a lesson for sincere believers from everything in creation. He produces instruction sometimes, even from what is apparently devoid of teaching or seems foolish, or contradictory to wisdom. A pious saint once asked, "From where did you learn your angelic manners?" He replied, "From the enemies of angels who are devoid of angelic manners." God has created the angels rank upon ordered rank in hierarchies of light and sublime levels of unimaginable beauty. Their number cannot be counted. Their perfections are beyond enumeration. Their knowledge is infinite. However, their rank before God is bestowed and never acquired. God, on the other hand, bestows a rank upon mankind, which he permits mankind to acquire. That is, they may reach the rank after they step upon their lower soul and use it as a stairway to perfection. As angels have been created perfect and without egos, they have no stairway to use. Therefore, God has created them with the same perfection as they will have throughout their existence. Human beings are created in order to progress to the knowledge of God, represented in the verse of the Quran, quote, "And I did not create the jinn and human beings except to worship me." Quran 51:56. When God decided to create Adam, the holy and pure angels who are endowed by God with divine love felt pity for human beings whom they had foreseen would shed blood on earth. They were concerned that mankind would never be able to know God the way that angels do. God answered them by alluding to the secret of the creation of human beings, for it is by their effort in this regard that they earn higher and higher rank among the angels. In this, of course, they are unlike the angels who obey God effortlessly and whose rank remains forever unchanged. Open quote. And when your Lord said unto the angels, "Lo, I am about to place a viceroy in the earth," they said, "Will you place therein one who will do harm therein, and will shed blood while we hymn your praise and sanctify you?" He said, "Surely I know that which you know not." Quran 2:30. To show the angels the exalted ranks of human beings, God asked who among them would go to the earth and live as mortal beings in order to experience the reality of the human condition directly. 2 angels stepped forward, Harut and Marut. The Quran tells of this, quote, "And follow that which the devils falsely related against the kingdom of Solomon. Solomon disbelieved not, but the devils disbelieved, teaching mankind magic and that which was revealed to the 2 angels in Babel, Harut and Marut. Nor did they, the 2 angels, teach it to anyone till they had said, 'We are only a temptation, therefore disbelieve not in the guidance of God.' And from these 2 angels people learned that by which they cause division between man and wife, but they injure thereby no one save by God's leave." Quran 2:102. Quran. God sent them down into a city of believers, one to act as a judge while the other was to be a scholar. They lived, ate, and drank as mortal people during the day. At night they returned to their heavenly stations by means of the most holy name which had been vouchsafed to them on account of their angelic nature. In that town lived a beautiful woman by the name of Zahra, or some say Anahid. She realized that Harut and Marut were not normal human beings, but rather angels who possessed a great secret. She resolved to obtain it no matter what it cost her. She invited the 2 angels to her house, prepared a feast for them. She gave them the best food and drink. Since these angels had been given a human lower soul, they were vulnerable and corruptible. Under the influence of wine and music, their heads became light, and they forgot that they were angels. They fell in love with Zahra. When they forgot that they, oh, I'm sorry, when she asked them to show her their true identity, they revealed themselves and they gave away the secret of the most holy name. Zahra immediately spoke the name, and as soon as she pronounced it, she flew off and disappeared from the face of the earth and was never seen there again. It is said that the Lord of the worlds forgave her and set her as a star upon the firmament. It is called Venus, Zuhra, and appears in the sky in the early morning or evening. As for the two angels who remained behind, they slowly recovered from their heedlessness. But when they tried to recite the secret name, they found that they no longer could escape their earthly forms. They were inextricably enmeshed in worldly existence. This is because, for so short a moment, they exchanged the cloak of remembrance of God for the cloak of the remembrance of the world. It is then that the realization of what had befallen dawned on them. Realizing that the truth of God's word concerning human beings, they were amazed at the fortitude of the prophets and the saints who never lose sight of God for a second, even though they are human beings. When God saw that they repented, he said to them, quote, "Now do you see the rank of mankind and how much they are beloved to me? If they decided to come to me one hand span, I shall come to them an arm span. If they walk to me, I shall run to them. If they remember me, I shall remember them." Harut and Marut remained on earth both as a lesson and a test to human beings. Would-be students of magic flock to them to be instructed, but they always meet them with the words, quote, "We are only a temptation, so beware. Remember God and do not disbelieve him." They taught human beings all esoteric arts and branches of the occult knowledge: astrology, alchemy, numerology, the healing arts, and magic. They never give away their knowledge, however, without a warning to the would-be practitioner. If his or her heart is pure, he or she is safe. If not, they are in danger of losing themselves among the lower beings of the earth, the jinn. There are 60 verses mentioning magic in the Quran. Quote, "Magical and enticing are attributes of this worldly life in the language of angels, prophets, and saints." In the prophetic tradition, eloquence and poetry are also described as possessing something, quote, "magical and enchanting." Found in their most intense manifestations, such arts attract audiences with something similar to spells. Music also contains a magic touch which sways the senses and takes one to a dimension of elation or euphoria. Such things may be considered a constructive sort of magic. In this guise, it benefits mankind. On the other hand, there is another magic that separates husband and wife, friends, brothers and sisters, or that brings about bad events for others. This kind of magic is unacceptable because of its destructiveness. Magic may be equally constructive and destructive when it comes to the mind. This duality of magic is reflected in the story of the two angels, who are both men and angels, whose human dimension is to forget and whose angelic dimension is to remind and to teach. People who deal in psychic forces nowadays are similarly divided into two groups. There are those who bring people exclusively material benefits and do not stop them from harming others. These must be avoided. They are a danger to themselves and those who consult them. Then there are those who help people build up their lives in constructive and spiritual ways. The latter kind work for goodness, and they enjoy the assistance of the angelic powers. Thanks so much for tuning in, y'all. I look forward to discussing these chapters and any other chapters that we may have read previously. And feel free to leave any comments or, just reflect on how these chapters may have made you feel, or if they brought up anything of significance for you to reflect on. I am definitely holding space to hear about it. Thank you again, and peace.